Welcome back, everybody, to High P at Home. My name is Cary Cusimano, and I am the Girls Division Director at High Performance here in St. Louis. As always, I'm joined by my partner, Scott Tazinski. Scotty, how you doing?
What's up, High P family? Miss ya.
And we have a very special guest today. This is going to be a lot of fun. We have our High Performance South Program Associate Director, Ben O'Day. Ben, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Cary. How's everybody doing?
Great. Good to be seen. We've generally been starting these recordings, these episodes, talking about how everybody's doing with the stay at home. You know, it's very, very important for us to talk about everybody kind of paying attention to what the experts are saying, staying at home, staying healthy, but at the same time trying to, get better while you're at home, both as, as a volleyball player, as a person, whatever category you want to talk about. Ben, I know you have a challenge at home. You got a full house. Talk to us about how your house is doing.
Yeah, a little bit of a challenge. 5 women, female dog, but no, it's going really well. Those girls were in school. This is their quote unquote spring break, so they haven't had a whole lot of schoolwork to do this week, but they've been great about it. My wife has really been the champion of the household, taking care of, making sure that they're they get up every morning. They're still scheduled and kind of regulated with schoolwork. Then, hey, we'll give you some breaks, kind of do like their recess, let them go out. When it's nice, we'll let them go out. They go outside. Our trampoline is getting a lot of use right now. But, and then, they come back in, finish up their schoolwork, and then just get to relax the rest of the day.
So what subject are you teaching?
I'd say I'm more like the principal. Get to sit back and handle the discipline side of things. But no, I actually, funny enough, I do the social studies and the science. But then the other day, Sammy, my second, had a social studies question, and my wife was in a meeting for school, and she kept, well, I gotta wait for mom. I was like, what is it? She's like, well, it's social studies. I'm like, well, I can help you with that. She goes, you don't know anything about social studies. So I get thrown under the bus a little bit, and I answered the question correctly, by the way. But
very nice. So one of the big things, Scotty and I have been talking about, not just amongst ourselves, and after this one, I'm gonna throw it to Scotty, but we've been talking about how people, I feel like I'm basically reinventing my job. How my job relies so much on what I do on the court and then interacting with coaches and players. And I've had to reinvent it to say, how am I going to be productive? How am I going to help the club? How am I going to help our families? What do you think has been the biggest challenge for you in terms of your day-to-day job life?
I'd really say that probably the same thing. It's just figuring out, because majority of what I do down south is the same thing. It's on the court and working with the kids, working with the coaches. So trying to figure out ways that I can still help them when I'm not going to be around them has been the big challenge. I've had phone conversations with a few of the coaches, planned phone conversations with some of the other ones coming up. Been talking to them a lot about when they have their Zoom meetings with their kids, and really just kind of watching videos, trying to write up some workouts or something, or find workouts for the kids to do while they're at home, so that way they're not just sitting around. I think it was it might have been, I think it was either Dustin or Reed on one of the Zooms was talking about, like, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. If you're sitting on the couch, somebody else is getting better, so therefore you're not going to be getting any better.
It's cool, Ben, to hear about the school aspect, because I was doing a little schoolwork today, and I'll tell you what, I am not the school teacher by any means. I'm greatly missing our job right now. We're in almost the exact same position here. We love to be in the gym. That is like what we love to do. We relish it. Google has been my biggest friend right now. And so when we're working on math, I think my son's better at math than I am, but we're working on math and he has no clue what's going on. I say, hey, Google, what's a parallelogram, or any of those things right now? And so we're trying to figure it out on the fly. I asked Dustin this question because obviously Dustin, backup libero for the U.S. national team, and you're big time into the high performance game right now. in July timeframe. Have you guys had any talks about that right now? Is that still going to happen? I know we're waiting on an overall thing from USA Volleyball right now. When's it going to be lifted? It's April 30th right now, but they have these these video tryouts right now, which are very interesting. So just trying to see what your take is on the whole entire deal right now.
Yeah, as of right now, the last email I got, they're still planning on having the programs this summer, whether it be the high performance championships, the A2 program, the future select programs. They're still planning on having all those. They set up for the virtual tryouts where kids got to send in it's like they want it under 30 minutes, but they're really willing to work with whatever you can find. Obviously, you're not getting new game film right now. So like we've got a couple highlight videos, things like that are coming in. But if you can find a stretch of unedited game film, it's under 30 minutes, that's really ideal. And I'll actually be helping evaluate. I'm evaluating liberos this year. So I'll be doing video evaluation with them, which I'm actually excited. I don't really know if anybody knows how it's really going to go, just because it's the first time that they've had to do this. It's kind of the same thing as everybody else, trying to figure out how do you still do the norm during this time where it isn't the norm. And so we're just getting a lot of video submissions, and those are due I think May 1st, and then we start rolling. The nice part about it is that the turnaround time with having the videos, as opposed to when they used to have the tryouts all over the country, is pretty quick. The videos are submitted May 1st. I think we got to be done with them pretty shortly after that. And then, the results of them are sent out right away. And you get to really see your results a lot more. You get to see the evaluation that was done for you and I was on the other day with the coaches and did a Zoom meeting with them, and the panel of coaches, it's a great panel of coaches. Just see all the names and faces of people that you see all over the gym at Division I levels, USA levels, club levels. There's a lot of different coaches that are putting a lot of time in, and it's nice because that's going to take up a large chunk of my day here for a little bit, to where I don't have to plan something, but that way we can sit there and really evaluate them. And the nice part is about this versus the in-person is I look at it and go, if I'm watching a kid for a specific skill and I go to write something down, look up, well, maybe they perform that skill and I miss it. Now it's watching the kids play, they're watching them in a match. When you go to make your notes, you just pause it, make your notes, go right back, play. You don't miss a single bit of the action of when they're playing. So I actually think the evaluation of this is going to be, probably a little bit greater than what it is in the in-person.
Is there an advantage, I guess, for the kids who were there last year, per se, because of the fact that you've seen them live, you've been able to talk with them? Because we talked about this, 2 podcasts ago with Kevin Dunn, our recruiting director, of getting the kids to obviously get their film ready and make sure it's spot on, and they have a little bit more time to be able to put that inside right now. Obviously, you're going to get, I don't know how many hundreds of videos of kids who want to go into the HPCs this summer. Is there an advantage? I know that's kind of like a hypothetical question there, but you've already seen and talked to these kids. There's a lot of kids that you've never even talked to. You don't know their personalities or anything like that, which that goes into a big way of making a team.
I think, maybe there used to be the evaluation sheets we would normally get when we're at the tryout actually has the program and the level that a kid was in last year. And then at the end of every program, we actually recommend, should this kid stay where they're at? Should they go down a level? Should they move up? So the program they were in and the recommendation are on our evaluation sheets. But this one is kind of coming with a blank or clean slate. They've actually removed that from it. That way it doesn't, it doesn't kind of sway your your belief where you look at a kid and go, I don't really, I think she's A2, but I don't know. And well, she made A1 last year, so she's got to be A2. Or, vice versa. They said she should move up, so we'll take a look. Right now it's kind of more of a, like I'll recognize a couple of the names of the kids that are in there. But, you're not really going to be able to, like you said, you're not going to be able to talk to them. So it's kind of that clean slate and not being able to see what they had last year. It really is just a pure evaluation of you.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
So for the millions of people that are tuning in right now, I just want to clear up, what we're talking about. We're talking about the USA High Performance Program, which a lot of people get confused because we're called High Performance, but it's the junior national team, the youth national team, kids that go to the High Performance Championships. It's I've participated in it. I've been lucky enough to be a coach of the High Performance Championships. It's an awesome event. There is some negative talk about the USA High Performance Program, that it's a fundraiser, that it's a money grab, which in a lot of respects it is. It does help fund a lot of national team does and things like that. But I think it's a great experience. It's also one of the only events where the boys and the girls are playing at the same time, which I think creates a really, really neat atmosphere. You give us, Ben, for someone that's involved now, give our families at home an idea of what the advantages are of a kid being in the pipeline, as they say.
Well, I think a part of the advantage is just the continued play. Something that I think we all talk about is, how do you get better? Well, you play the game. And this is the ability to go and, when you go in like HBCs, you go in, you train, and the way you're being trained and the things you're doing you're being trained exactly like, the junior national and the youth national and everybody else is at the highest level. We're given all the drills that we're supposed to be doing, all the keywords that we use to coach them, everything we do, it's the same as what the national team is. So everything that, Karch is saying to anybody on the national team, like whatever your position is, the same things are going to be said to you, or at least in a similar way. And then, like you said, the experience is something that, it's really kind of unrivaled in what you can do in our sport. I look at last year, when I was coaching with my team, we played New Zealand, and I was with the girls at the High Performance Championships. And, it's one of the girls just amazed at the fact, like, we're playing New Zealand. Then we played Canada. You're playing kids that you were never going to see on a yearly basis, playing in club, you can go to nationals, you can do this or that, but you're not going to see those kids from New Zealand. I've had kids that have played in it, and she still stays in contact with 3 of the kids that were on the Japan team that she talked to then and met at HBC. The other cool thing was just seeing a little bit of like the different culture and see the different ways people warm up. Like the New Zealand men's team, when they were there, they actually performed the haka, and they did it in their own individual matches, but then at one point they stopped the entire tournament and had them come on the main championship court and perform it for everybody. So it's something that, are those kids ever going to see that in person again? Probably not. So, just the experiences that you get to have, even outside of volleyball, are really cool.
Yeah, I think it's an amazing event, actually. I've heard the money grab aspect of it so many different times, and some of the things that I remember really about my youth. One, obviously, Ben O'Day here. I had probably the best setter I've ever had growing up right here in front of me, which is pretty cool for me to be back here in St. Louis, Missouri, and be able to work with you again, Ben, which is awesome. We played JOs together way back in the day. Ben had some boosties, as I like to say, maybe one of the highest flyers. I didn't even know you could even jump that high back in the day. And so Ben used to jump pretty much over the net. And but some of the greatest memories I've had are from the youth and junior national team growing up. And now you're giving the opportunity to maybe some of the kids that would never even be able to make that team. Because remember, you're only picking the top 24 kids for the youth and junior national team every single year. Now you're expanding that to regions now, which is you're allowing the best, top 24 kids from every region to go in there now, which is phenomenal. And also on the fact of you're getting the highest level coaching for these kids as well, like you're alluding to, Ben, which is even making them better volleyball players along with the play and seeing all these different things that they had. Obviously, you've been a club director for a bunch of different clubs. We're not going to name those today, but it's great to have you back. How did your experience of being our girls director before Cary help you in your role right now here with our South program? Because our South program is 1 year new, I guess you could say right now, coming from Show Me and working with Shane Allen. And how does that help you now? And obviously it's a different role, but just want to see how that helped you moving into what you're doing now.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a different role than the girls director. I always say I got the utmost respect for Cary because I've done that job. And but I think the side that helps me the most is, the scale of communication. Like, you have such a large group you have to communicate with as the girls director. And High P's has grown since I was a girls director, but you have such a large group of people that you're trying to communicate with. And for me right now, the South it's a smaller aspect of the club. So just going from communicating with that many people, and then, like I said, when I went to Nashville, when I went to Nashville after that, the club there was very similar to the size of a High Performance. And I think that was one of the things that really helped me was being able to communicate and email or phone calls or whatever it is, or even have group discussions with that large number of people, as opposed to, when I've been at other clubs that are smaller, it's really easy to talk to 4 teams.
Yeah.
It's and even 13 teams, but you get into the 30s and the 40s, it becomes a much larger group that you're trying to organize and get coaches on the same page. And because I think that's a huge piece of what we do is all the coaches be on the same page, because you can't have this person telling you one thing, this person telling you another. Who are you supposed to listen to? So I think being a High Performance, it really it helped steer me towards and gear me towards that, being able to communicate and organize that large of a group to bring it back together to one common, I don't want to say goal, but one common thing that we were doing.
Yeah, I agree, man. I applaud Cary and Brian for everything that they do, because that is a tremendously difficult job that they have. And us being able to be the associate directors, it makes our job easier because of how much effort and how good they are at their job. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's fun being the associate, because somebody says, well, hey, what about this or this? And if I don't really know the answer, or if I don't know, you should probably go talk to Shane. It's kind of like when the kids come in and ask, Dad, can we have another bag of chips? Go ask your mother.
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel like that Scotty really glossed over the fact that you guys played together.
But he did say that I was the greatest setter he's ever played with. And I know he said grew up with, but sorry, Loy.
I was going to say, Loy Ball, we might have to get him and Ben on here at the same time and have that conversation. But it's interesting because I feel like I'm a little older than Ben and Ben's a little older than Scotty. And I feel like we're kind of like a lost generation of boys volleyball players in the history of, St. Louis, because for us, especially for guys my age, there weren't a lot of opportunities to go on and play after high school. Unless you were going to Penn State or UCLA, now we have the depth of NAIA teams and Division III teams. And there wasn't, the closest school that had volleyball to us was Quincy at that time. And so most of us just, went to college, and maybe we played some club volleyball and some of us went into coaching, but not a lot of the guys my age went into coaching. So just give us an idea what it was like, both of you guys can answer this, but what it was like playing with each other.
Well, before we go to that, I also want to point out though that, like, your generation, and Scott Meeber, or even Brian Pichelle, everybody, Phil Otherton, and those were the trailblazers for all of us. Unfortunately, we just recently lost Wayne Pounds, but he was a huge piece of that, of starting, boys volleyball in St. Louis. And it wasn't until my freshman year, which we won't talk about what year that was, but my freshman year that the state even recognized boys volleyball as a sport. So I went all 4 years in high school of it being a state sanctioned sport, but it wasn't sponsored. And I don't know the differences between the two. I was allowed to play volleyball, so I didn't really care. But yeah, playing with Scotty was playing with and against Scotty was some of the funnest matches I ever had. I talk a little bit of trash, and he didn't at the time. I think he does talk a lot more now, but he didn't talk a lot of trash at the time. He just kind of hit over the top of you, and that was kind of his way of being like, oh yeah, you can say whatever you want. But it's a lot of fun to be able to just, as playing with them as a setter, just I can screw this up and he's going to make it look good.
The cool part, and man, Ben is hitting the nail on top of the head like perfectly, is Scott Meeber and Jeff Getz and Tom Takeoff and all these guys were the trailblazers. I was fortunate enough that my middle brother Keith played with Scott, and so I firsthand got to go to every single one of those Vianney matches, and I literally got to see the greatness of Scott Meeber. I said this in one of our staff meetings. Scott Meeber was by far the best volleyball player to ever come out of St. Louis, Missouri, and it's really cool to see that he has started and made this club, High Performance St. Louis, the way it is right now because of his passion and his commitment to volleyball in this area. And to be able to watch those guys on a daily basis, when I never even wanted to play volleyball, I thought it was a girls' sport, and I just wanted a brand new pair of basketball shoes that I was forced into getting to be able to play the sport. And then getting to watch these guys all the time was unbelievable. I think my first year that we won state was at Lafayette. And at the time, Lafayette was really a great team because of Ben. I mean, there was really not a lot of other great volleyball players on that team. There were a couple, but Ben, really took that team to the next heights. And now, obviously, Lafayette is the powerhouse that it is right now in boys and girls. And he was really a trailblazer, for Lafayette. But playing with Ben was awesome because, he said that his sets weren't great and I made them good, but, his sets were pretty dang good every single time. And he was one of the fastest guys I ever played with. I grew up playing with Ben and Sean McMullen. Two guys who, aren't the tallest guys, obviously, as you can tell from Ben, but they both jumped extremely high. They were the fastest guys I've ever seen, like literally lightning speed on the volleyball court. You could pass a volleyball. One of my favorite memories ever of playing with Ben was a ball was passed over the scores table, and Ben jumps over the scores table, brings the ball back. I think at the time, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at the time you couldn't touch the scores table or the ball was out. So you literally had to jump back over the scores table without touching the scores table because you were still deemed out. And he never touched either of them. I think he might have even jumped over the scorekeeper's head at the same time and did like a ninja flip. But it was unbelievable what Ben could have done. We traveled all over the United States together. We used to go out to, was it Warrenton, Ben? At the
Montgomery City.
Montgomery City.
Home of the great Zach Young. You used to go out there all the time and practice. Basically have overnights. Like go practice, stay there that night, and then wake up, practice in the morning. We would just stay in the gym.
We'd stay in the gym all the time. We'd have like a sleepover. It was the best team bonding I think you could ever have. I remember at the beginning of it, it was like, about an hour and 45-minute drive away from here. And I used to be so upset that we had to go out there all the time. And then after about 4 or 5 times, I'm like, Mom and Dad, like, why aren't we going out to Montgomery City? It was like the best times that we had together. And it really, formed a bond. I've known Ben since, probably 10 years old, Ben?
Yeah, I think we were about 10 or 11, I think is when we first met.
And obviously we stayed in touch since I was gone in California and overseas for all those years. And being back now, it's like I never even left, which is pretty cool. Those are just the the bonds that you really form growing up, obviously, in volleyball. I talk about this all the time. And Ben, you could allude to this of how unbelievable of a community volleyball is, you know, especially because we are a smaller sport, I guess you could say, compared to basketball. You know, in basketball, you see, especially on California, they have to have security guards at basketball tournaments in California because a fight breaks out, I think, almost every single tournament out there. And here, it's like everybody's hugging each other, and it's like, that's my family over there, but, you know, I just met you 2 weeks ago, and it's crazy. So I just allude to that, Ben, because you've been obviously around it for your whole entire life. I was almost forced into it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, my sister played, and I mean, I started, you know, playing at the age of 10, like you said, and you get to know people and you're around people, and you know, you spend all this time with them, and when you leave, you know, I look at you know, good friend of ours, Justin Franklin. You know, I hadn't seen the guy in years. I mean, probably close to a decade almost, and you know, ran into him at a tournament he was coaching. And we were teammates in high school, and you would have thought that, you know, high school was like 2 years before that. You know, like when I saw him, you like you said, you pick up right with people, and you know, it just, I mean, the game hasn't changed that much. So, you know, while I shouldn't say it has changed a lot, but it's still the game of volleyball. So when you do finally see people, I think it also helps that you still have that common interest. You're still able to, you know, what you talk about is the same things you would have talked about back then. And then obviously, you know, you spend time catching up on what's different. You know, at the time I didn't have 4 girls in high school.
Yeah, because he's got 2 girls now too. So
He does. Yeah. He tried saying, oh yeah, it's rough, I got 2 girls. And I just said, watch this, you know. But,
So Ben and Scotty have both named a lot of people that, you know, I always say my claim to fame is I lost all of them. I know, you know, people think of St. Louis
names.
Yeah, people think of St. Louis. You know, if you know anything about, you know, high school volleyball in the area, St. Louis University High School has been the dominant team probably for the last 10 years, maybe more. And that was not the case when I was there. Okay, it was not the case. And Ben Bryan Pounds, who unfortunately we lost this past year. I tell you a quick story. I owe Wayne Pounds he brought me maybe my finest moment in volleyball, and that led to maybe my worst moment as a player. I was a freshman at SLU, and we were playing Kirkwood, where Wayne was the coach, and we beat them. And I was on JV. I was on JV at the time, and we're going through the line, and Wayne grabbed my hand and stopped me, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, well, did I do something wrong?" You know, and he looked at my coach and said, "This guy should be on varsity." I was like, "Oh, you know." And I remember, notice my finest volleyball moment had nothing to do with touching a volleyball. But so 2 weeks later, this was the last year. People my age and older only know this. This was the last year. This is 1992. The state tournament was a one-day tournament where every team was allowed to play in. It was at Forest Park Community College. It was like a club tournament. 4 courts going. There were 2 teams from Kansas City, but every other team was from St. Louis. And we're playing, and this is my other kind of claim to fame, is I got to play against one of Scotty's friends and Olympian Phil Etherton, who Ben knows as well. Playing Lafayette.
Always, by the way, played at Lafayette. So let's not say that I was the one who started.
That's true.
okay.
And so coach puts me in, and I was like, "You got to be kidding me. I'm going up against Phil Etherton. Is this real?" For those of you who don't know, Scotty, how tall is Phil? 6'10"?
Yeah, he's like 6'9".
Yeah. And I'm this 5'11" and a half freshman, and called timeout, and we got to get this point. And our setter at the time says, "I need you to just be as loud as you possibly can. Just come in and call for the ball. You need to distract Phil, and I'm going to set someone else." I'm like, okay. So I'm coming in, I'm screaming for the ball, and he sets me, and I'm in like slow motion in the air, and I didn't jump very high, not as high as Ben. I'm in slow motion thinking, why in the heck did he set me? And I swung and missed. Completely missed the ball. So I tell people, I use that story a lot for kids when they're, you know, feeling bad about themselves. Let me tell you a story about the time I played against an Olympian. So those are my 2, and I owe Wayne Pounds for both those things, and I miss him greatly. So kind of leave
Your second greatest story doesn't involve a volleyball.
That's true. Yeah. That's a good point. Neither story involved me actually touching a volleyball. Scotty might have a little more high profile moment, but do either of you guys have any super embarrassing volleyball moments that you'd like to share with everybody?
I mean, I don't know about, let's see, super embarrassing. Actually, it kind of goes with the score table. That not the time that Scotty's talking about. That was a much more successful time, but I was actually playing with Scotty's brother Keith, and I remember we had passed the ball over by the scores table, and I ran over, and it was right at the edge, and so I jumped up to go set the ball, and back set the ball, clipped the scores table with my feet, came down and smashed my face right on top of the scorekeeper's head, who was down writing the entire time. And I remember I put my hands down to brace myself, and I destroy her pen. It goes everywhere. And all I do is just like stop, didn't make sure she was okay, nothing, turn around. And I think Keith might have hit the ball either out or in the net, and turned around. And I was like, that was a great set. What's wrong with you? And but then finally turned around to her, and I was like, are you okay? And all she could talk about is I'm bleeding through my, out my noses. Well, you broke my pen. I'm like, okay. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. You broke my pen. I remember my dad had to go into buying her a new one because she was so upset about it. So, but
I've actually heard that story before, and that's exactly what happened. Keith actually hit the ball out of bounds wide, and you said, "What was wrong with that set?" And he goes, "It should have been better." He goes, "I was over here on the scores table about bleeding," and it's pretty funny, man. One of my most embarrassing stories, and this video has been viewed over like, I don't know how many times, and I can't even believe I'm even saying this right now, but I think it's been viewed like 10 million times, and it's called the Triple Six Pack. And I was actually the second person. I don't know if this has ever been done before in the history of volleyball, but there's a video that we're in Germany. This is the third year. We won 3 years in a row in Germany at the championship. This is the third year we're at this city called Friedrichshafen, little small city on the Swiss-German border. And I'm in middle back playing defense. Our other outside is blocking. They set a D ball back, and this guy absolutely thunders a volleyball down the line off of our libero's face. And he's playing defense, and it goes right off of his face. Well, off of his face, it ricochets straight at me into area 6, and it hits me in the face. And then it ricochets off my face to our area 1, who's Kavika Shoji, playing defense. It hits him in the face, and they call it the Triple Six Pack. And the only reason this video got out there was because our coach at the time, Mark Lebedew, I played 8 years with this guy overseas, and he posts it on about the play before, and it was a great kill, but he kept the video running, so everybody in the world saw the next play of this video that he allowed, which he should never let play, and they call it the Triple Six Pack. So there you go, High P. Go out there and check out the Triple Six Pack and get a couple more tags on the video. But by far, I've been literally written messages from all my friends across the world about this, and I'll even get it like shared to me every month from somebody across the world, like, haha, Scott Tazinski, area 6, Triple Six Pack. It's like,
well, it's in everybody's Facebook memories now.
Oh, 100%, man. It's everywhere, and I can't get this thing away from it either. It's terrible.
So I've been asking people this question the other day. I can be a pretty big nerd about a lot of things, and one of them is movies, and I love going to movies. I love going to the movie theater. I can watch movies on TV and everything. It's great. But I was out for a walk the other day, and I happened to walk by my favorite movie theater, and I got to thinking, oh man, I haven't been to a movie in a long time. When this all stops, I'm going to go to a movie. And it seems like really kind of simple and kind of corny, but I've been asking people, first, what's the first thing you want to do that you can't do right now when the stay-at-home order? Ben?
My kids are gonna have a sleepover at Grandma and Grandpa's. We're gonna get them out of the house, and I don't know, take the wife to dinner, maybe go see a movie. 'Cause we're pretty big movie buffs, love going to the theater. But the first thing I think I'd want to do is, probably it's very similar. Just go out and do something we would normally do, like take the kids to go see a movie. There's a lot of movies that are coming out right now and are being live streamed is the first time people are seeing them. And there's something my wife and I were just talking about the other day is this is a little bit different than, or this is not a little bit, this is a lot different than, you see a movie for the first time. There's nothing like going and seeing it in the theater and have that big screen. But yeah, that'd actually probably be one of the tops of my list of is, go see a movie.
Scotty?
Yeah, man. I'm missing the golf course right now. I'm a big golfer. I know that, golf courses were not closed and you can go out there and do that, but just I felt like, it was better to stay at home and flatten the curve and listen to what the people are saying out there. So once the golf courses get open, and I'm not a big fan of walking the golf course. I'd rather ride in the golf cart. But once those things get back open, I'm getting the golf course with my brother and have a nice little round.
You bring up an interesting saying golf, because you still, I mean, the state of Missouri and a lot of states, you can still golf if you choose to. And it's obviously in our world, we're in the sporting world. There's a lot of talk about what sports are going to look like in 3-4 months. And the reason I thought of this when you say golf is, golf might be the easiest professional sport to actually get up and running again. And people that don't normally watch golf are going to be watching golf because we starve for something to watch on TV. But we think about it in our world, like what's it going to look like for us? Are we going to be having qualifiers with just the kids and the refs and the coaches, and we're going to have to get our temperature taken and whatnot? What do you guys think? What do you think the best case scenario is 6 months from now when we are starting a new season?
Man, that's a great question.
I'd say hopefully best case scenario is it'd be back like normal. Grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, because I know, especially when we play the qualifier here at St. Louis, my oldest, she's on one of our 14s teams, it's great. Like my mom and dad come down, my wife's mom and dad come down and watch, my in-laws, my sisters come and watched, and then, my great aunt and some of my uncles, they've come to watch, and hopefully best case scenario, we can still get to that, because, these kids work extremely hard, and for them right now, like those are the big crowds. Those are the fans that they want to see. There is, I know that with my daughter, one of the coolest things she thinks is when my great aunt comes and watches her play. She still talks about tournaments from last year. Oh yeah, that's when Aunt Claire came and watched me play, and she loves it. And I think best case scenario, hopefully we get back to that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's such a weird time. I have 3 days a week, Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, Zoom calls with my 16s boys team right now, and we're watching a bunch of video. And for us, we're still qualified, and we're hoping that we can get to JOs in Reno come end of June. But the hardest part to look at, and they keep on asking all me these questions to me of, do you think we're going to have it, all this stuff? And the biggest thing is to imagine having, 3,000 people inside of a convention center at one time to have JOs is in literally a month and a half's time or 2 months time is just, I can't imagine that would even happen. Would you have to, like you said, Cary, walk up to the door and get your temperature taken, go in, and one day your best player is not feeling great and he's got a fever and he can't play because he's got a fever, and they have to send him home, and the parents paid all this money to get out to Reno, and it's just a tough time for everybody right now. And so I say best case scenario, yeah, we're looking in 6 months to hopefully have everything up and running and no problems at all. But I agree with Ben. Sports is such a unique thing in our world that it just takes you to another place. You hear it so many times from athletes that, getting on the court is where that they just, it's like their paradise. It's like their safe haven. They get on the court and everything else goes away and all the stresses are gone and they can just be themselves. And right now this is being taken away from kids that, greatly depend on this type of things. We're getting into summertime right now, and normally this is a time to rejoice, and, school's done with and kids get to get outside and play sports and do camps and all these different things. And that might be taken away from them right now. So I'm hoping that in 6 months, everything is back to normal. But I think, with us extending those stay-at-home orders till May 3rd of the governor here in St. Louis, things could get a little bit shaken up here pretty soon.
Yeah, it makes it even more important just to emphasize everybody staying safe and staying home. And hey, if you want to get back out there, if you want to see sports again, let's do what we're supposed to do. So I brought the mood down a little bit there. Sorry guys, this is supposed to be the fun podcast. So we're gonna want to wrap this up and give you guys both an opportunity to tell a family-friendly story, a funny story about each other, because I know you got a bunch.
Oh my
Scotty,
God.
you want to go first?
Wow, a family-friendly story about Ben. Well, you see me in the offices, Cary. I'm a big fan of Ben. I love Ben. He's like a big brother of mine. One of the big things that really helped me out. I alluded to this our last podcast. I tore my ACL my very first professional job overseas in Greece, 5 matches in, and when I came back to St. Louis, Missouri, actually. The person who I hung out with almost every single day was Ben. He literally helped me out to just forget about what happened with my knee. I remember on a daily basis, after the surgery, I would go to physical therapy in the morning for about 2.5 hours. I would come home, I would ice it down, I would do all my stretches and everything. And then I would go to Ben's house almost 4 or 5 days a week. He was one of the main friends that I had back here still in St. Louis.
I did have a job at the time, but
Yeah, we tried to keep Ben at home as much as he could. That's why I had to go to his house at like 5 or 6 o'clock at night. But no, just to talk volleyball, just to kind of ease my fears, I guess, of what were the next steps going to be. Was I ever even going to be able to play volleyball again? And huge thanks to Ben of being there for a friend at that time, because I had no clue what the future was going to entail. Kind of like a lot of you kids out there right now have no clue of getting out of this pandemic and everything. So just stay strong and have a great friend like Ben to help you out along the way.
Yeah, I'd say kind of took mine. I mean, that was probably one of my favorite times. Was it wasn't my favorite for the reason he was back home, but having Scotty back home during those times, and I want to say like that was, it was right after or maybe right before you started the Tazinski Elite Camp.
Yep, it was.
And at that time, I think you were going to do the camps were going to be just boys. I remember spending a lot of time convincing him that he needed to have those camps for the girls too. But that was really probably, aside from playing days, it was just a great time to have him home and be able to hang out with him that often. Like I said, I did have a job, but so he was at therapy, I'd be working, and then come home. Hearing that you were technically back for an off season at my house 4 to 5 days, I was really working.
I remember calling Ben at like 2 o'clock every single day. You off of work yet, dude? Like, what are you doing? He's like, well, there's a thing called a job, Scott, that you have to do that to make money. I'm like, okay, well, just call me whenever you're done, dude.
That's awesome.
I will say another memory of Scotty was when we were, I think I was 12, because back when we were playing club, it was, boys and even girls it was 12 and under team, 14s, 16. I mean, it was only the even years. And if you were 11, you were playing up no matter what. And I remember when I think I was 12, and Scotty was on the court next to us with his team at the time. And a bunch of my teammates looking at me go, there's no way that kid's 12. There's no way that kid's 12. And me looking over and seeing that it's Scotty, and I'm like, yes, he is. I mean, you can be that skinny at 12 too.
Yeah, I was a skinny dude, still am now, but back in the day, that was real skinny.
Yeah.
Well, good stuff, guys. I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Appreciate Ben joining us today. As always, I got Scotty with me. The best to your families. Hope everybody's staying safe and healthy.
You guys too. Thank you very much for having me. It was a nice, fun thing to do for the day.
Thanks, guys. We'll see everybody soon.
Yep. See you
See
soon.
you guys. Bye-bye.